I don't really personally see too much sales pages. So, and I'm in sales. I love sales, but I've been doing sales for years now. And I clicked it and I saw those pictures and I saw some videos of you, just raw videos, and I clicked them. And then one of them was like an objection handling, and it was so useful because it was just a small clip, raw clip. And usually you see the big sales guys who are famous and celebrities and stuff who don't really do that. They kind of have it a YouTube and they have a few videos here and there. Grant Cardone has a lot of videos, but it's not just raw clips on Instagram. So that's what I really like, because sometimes I'm busy. I don't really get to go on YouTube too much. So I
Right.
like the raw, quick clips. And
Right.
it's helpful because then sometimes when I do have time, I go on YouTube and I watch the full thing, right? So I think that was super unique, and that's kind of how I found you, just kind of lurking on Instagram. And the personality with it too. I mean, you got a great personality for it. You're definitely raw and just honest. So, I feel
Cool.
like a lot of these people who do kind of do brand and stuff like that, they're very structured, and it just comes off just like sales, customer service, or it comes off, somebody trying to, do too much or be a certain way.
It's one thing about the motherfucker tables, man, they always fucking turn. They always turn. It's one thing about the tables, man, they turn.
And so the content that you've learned thus far, have you applied it and has it helped you?
Yeah, it has. Some of the stuff I've learned, just the simple stuff, objection handling, just getting to the point and kind of not going out of a way. Because I actually saw the coaching Skype session that you did with that one last guy who was who's doing kind of similar stuff as me. Doing outbound calls, having problems with that, and you were saying stuff about the email and stuff like that. So I've been applying some stuff, just providing more value and insight. That's kind of what you explained versus just kind of calling out to somebody, because I'm outbound, right? So instead of just calling out to somebody and just telling them, hey, here's me, you're actually using the information I have available and creating that value before, so they think, okay, this guy knows about me, I'm more comfortable, he's got some like solid information, he knows his stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of like the inside information, kind of bringing that up in the middle of the call, or even at the early stages of the call, because that's more important, because
Right.
they'd be more in tune and more focused, and thinks this is someone's going to provide value. So that's definitely been helpful, because different
Nice.
mindset of going to the call.
Nice. So if you can tell me your name and what you do, like just so
Yeah.
the audience knows.
Okay. My name's Kevin Graham. I'm 21. I'm currently full-time student right now at a school in San Diego, and I got a great opportunity this past January to work at a finance company
Okay,
and
cool.
sell their financial services. So they gave me a great opportunity to do part-time. So whenever I'm
Nice.
not going to school, I'm there working, and I enjoy it. And I love sales. I've been doing sales since I was 17, 18. My first sales job was selling DirecTV inside Costco's. So
Okay.
one of
Okay.
those guys, yeah. And then I did some telemarketing stuff after. And, I just finished playing college soccer for the past 3 years, going to my fifth year now. So been a year
Nice.
out from soccer, but I haven't had a full chance to work at a long company since, playing collegiate soccer. It's very time consuming.
Right.
But this is my, first consistent job, actually being here for about 5 or 6 months now. And I'm enjoying it. And, I got a lot more time summer to really dial down and focus and work. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you're using the source too. So.
Soccer is an interesting sport, man. You have to really have endurance. You have to
Yeah.
have the stamina and the fortitude, the mindset to go through it. And it's very similar to sales in a way, right? Like there's a lot of movement, but there's not a lot of high scoring. It has to be very methodical. It has to be very timed,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean. Like everything has to be on point.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, like, with your opportunity right now with the financial company, like
Uh-huh.
what are you doing usually on a daily basis, and what challenges are you running into? I had a chance to research it, but I want the audience
Yeah.
to know too.
Okay. So at work, you're saying, like, just day
Yeah,
to
like
day?
your current
Okay.
day to day, like your day to day hustle. Every day you go
Yeah.
in, basically.
So I go in, and it's usually 7 to 3, and we usually there's about 15 to 20 lists on our dialer system, so automatic calls come in, and my manager comes an hour later, so we have a list of what to call, like 3 or 4 lists, and some of the lists are decent, some of them are not really good at all, and some of them are great because they're newer companies.
Okay.
So usually when you get on a tough list, these people are already with other companies or locking contracts and stuff, or these people don't need it, because usually our service is more for newer companies who need that cash flow, right?
Yep. Yep.
So it's not really necessary. So I remember my first week, my manager, and this is probably, you can probably similar relate to this too. He was telling me like these things of these people need it, like making you think that everybody needs it,
Yeah.
and how we make commission is getting an accepted turnover lead from a
Right.
consultant, right? So I would turn over everything because I would just convince these people, and then I'll get over to the consultant, and it just wasn't as necessary. So I'll get a lot like deferred turnovers, right? So, and then giving more experience now, I'm by 5th or 6th month, I'm kind of understanding quality leads to send over,
Yeah.
but just the daily challenge is probably just little objections. Like I'm a top performer right now. It's my first full-time month.
I
When
see.
I was doing part-time, I was doing 3 to 4 days, and every day I would come in, I would be 90% of the time I would be first, which is good. I mean, I read a lot of sales books, helps a lot. You too as well. And I think the biggest thing is just little objections. Like I always want to become sharper and better on the phone because I mean, there's no perfect pitch, but it doesn't hurt to strive it for it. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
just little
What
stuff, maybe objection handling.
What's the common
Um,
objection you run into right now?
yeah, so I kind of every day I look back and I kind of tweak my pitch, so it's helped me. So sometimes at the start of the call, you know, I say, "Hey, this is Kevin from E Capital, it's my company name," and next thing you know, they're like, "Oh, I don't need anything. Oh, I don't want it," and they hang up, or they just hang up, right? So
Mhm.
maybe more sharp or fix my pitch in a way so it doesn't sound like a normal call. So instead of recently I've been doing this and it's helped a lot. So instead of me saying, "Hey, this is Kevin with E Capital on a recorded line. How's it going today, sir?" Instead of me saying that, now I'm saying, "Hey, it's Kevin. How's it going today, sir?" And they're kind of in tune, like, "Oh, does this guy know me?" Like,
Yeah.
a lot of them ask me,
Yeah.
"Oh, where are you from, Kevin?" You know what I mean? They're just curious.
Yeah.
So I'm creating them in tune with me versus just calling, say, "Hey, this is me. I'm from here." Oh, it's some guy just trying to sell something. And
Right.
then I
Right.
tell them, "Yeah, I'm here with E Capital on a recorded line." And then I tell them about the services we do, and I'm asking them if they're familiar with it.
So
A lot of them are
hook
not.
them in with curiosity, and
Yeah,
then intro like, hey, I'm with E Capital. This is a
yeah,
recorded line.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Okay.
always tough saying the recorded line because some people, you get those people that just have a problem with it. That's
Yeah.
why, well, it's fun being recorded.
Yeah.
And
Phone
it's funny.
taps.
Whenever someone says that, I'm usually like, yeah, it's for quality assurance. Can you hear me? Okay. Funny, but no, I think the
Nice. That's
biggest
actually
thing,
really smooth, though. It's
yeah,
creative, right? It's
yeah, and
creativity.
just go with it. And it's not like I'm trying to be a wise ass or something. It's just, I'm trying to get to my point.
Yeah.
But I think there's three, and I'm hitting on the first one right now. There's three major objections I get that I know you can help me with. But the first one that I'm talking about right now is more of just creating that curiosity and getting them tuned with me because our service is called factoring, right?
Right.
So it's advanced payment on their invoice. I didn't know too much about this, but they wait to receive payment on the invoices after they finish hauling a load from their brokers or shippers, about 1 to 3 months. That's the industry average. It's pretty wild. And newer companies, they just paid $1,000 for their insurance for their truck. They just bought a 200 grand truck, so they need access to that fast cash. So we buy out the invoices for a percentage, right?
Right.
And we pay them within 24 hours, and then we just wait for the payment through the shippers, right?
Okay. Okay.
So let's say Nike wants to ship their product at a retail store. They hit up these trucking companies and they have them do the work, and then Nike pays them later. But we get in the way of that and just have Nike pay us. So
Okay.
that's how it
So
works.
I kind of get a gist of it, and I got some thoughts already
Uh huh.
in how to hook them in, right? So first
Yeah.
off, what we want to do is any sales industry, any sales position, we have to be empathetic to the prospect themselves, right? The lead,
Yeah.
the person that we're constantly in contact with. And so
Mm-hmm.
from what you've shared with me and from what I've seen thus far, I know that our prospect are truck drivers,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And whether or not we can identify if they're seasoned, they're brand new, if they're struggling or whatnot is a different story, but ultimately we want to take this prospect and bucket them into about three different type of characters, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the first character is someone who like really, really needs it. Like this person, you know what I mean? Like from what I understand is like maybe they have a lot of outstanding invoices that isn't getting
Yeah.
paid, right? And they're just
Yeah.
running short on funds because they're just ramping up. And then
Yeah.
there are people who could use it, but then could really get by without it, right? And these
Mm-hmm.
are the individuals who probably have good seasoned relationships with their vendors, and so they're getting
Yeah.
paid on time, or
Uh
they
huh.
have that book of business where they're already receiving the revenue, so they're okay. And
Yeah.
then you have those who genuinely don't need it, right? Like just like they're straight without you. Maybe they have someone of your competitor who they've been working for a long time, and there's that loyalty. And the reason why it's important to identify these three different types is because you'll know after the repetition that you have and the reason, like for example how you came up with the creativity of, hey, this is all for quality assurance purposes, can you hear me okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's almost like a question throws
Yeah.
them off, and makes
Yeah,
it
think
sound
about it.
different. And I think the reason why they respond the way they did when you said, "Hey, this is Kevin with E Capital on a recorded line," immediately it triggers them to think of a business, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying, "Hey, how can I help you?" when you walk
Hmm.
into a store. And
Yeah.
so really, it's just it's a question on of okay, what's the message that I bring to them? I know that I can genuinely help them, but their
Mhm.
immediate guard is going to be from a protection standpoint. So
Yeah.
initially, we have to connect with them on a different level. And
Hmm.
so immediately we need to break past their initial guard, which, like, for example, my script, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It
Yeah.
may seem like it's tailored for mortgage because of the lingo, but
Yeah.
it's actually just tailored just to create an engagement and turn it to curiosity so you can capture the attention and then sell to that attention, right?
Can I
And
say
so,
something real quick, too?
yeah, definitely.
This is huge because they once they apply for their authority, that makes them eligible to actually open up their own company. They get a
Okay,
bunch of calls, so that's how we get our leads. We
right.
pay the company, the FMCSA, we pay for that to get our leads from there. So
Hmm.
they've probably got at least 15, 20 calls from insurance companies, factoring companies like us. There's probably about 20 out there. So sometimes they don't answer, and sometimes they answer with like, "Oh, geez, I'm getting a ton of these calls." But
Yeah,
our phones are set up so where when we call out, it shows their area code in their city, wherever they're
yep,
from. So
yep,
that kind of helps. They answer, but
sure.
they're coming at the point of they're getting a bunch of calls. So usually, what I say sometimes is, "Hey, I know you're getting a bunch of calls, but we do factoring. Are you guys familiar with this yet?" You know what I mean? So it
Got
kind of
it. Yeah,
release off the pressure, but just having the yeah, you're helping me out right now. Just having the mindset of they're already putting grudge on me, kind of, because they're getting a bunch of calls. There's this guy
right.
from some company trying to, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, go
So,
ahead.
depending on your CRM, right? Like you're gonna have
Yeah.
some information. What do you have their name, phone number, and email?
Yeah, name, phone number, address, what city they're from, everything, and sometimes I have the email, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, so ultimately what happens is very similar to my industry when someone does an online inquiry. Sometimes they don't even know they're doing an online inquiry, right? They think
Yeah,
that they're just going to get a quick quote and then their phones blow up. And so sometimes I would imagine that truck drivers don't expect that to happen too. Once they
yeah,
get their authority, their phones blow up, right?
yep,
And so what's good is that you recognize that you're empathetic about that, and I think that's what's influencing you to change up your styles because you're recognizing where the resistance comes. And
yeah.
so what I've found to work, especially on outbound, if you're doing strictly outbound, are you on a dial or are you dialing yourself?
I'm on a dialer, so I'm just sitting back on my desk. Calls are coming through, and then I disposition it, whether it's voicemail, no need, call back one day, my personal callbacks, you know what I mean? Something like that.
Got got it. So the only person that you're connected to is actually people who say hello.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay,
No,
got it.
so sometimes it goes through voicemails and I have to click voicemail, but yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. When it goes to voicemail, you hear the voicemail greeting,
Yeah, and I
and
just click
then
voicemails. No one really leaves voicemails, which I
right,
was kind
and
of
then
surprised.
the CRM. So if the voicemail greeting pops on, can you end the call and then redial?
I can, yeah. Sometimes I've actually done that, and the reason it's good is because when the dialer comes in, it comes out through a number in their area code, right? Like I was
Right.
saying.
Seems like it's local.
But if I hang up and I call out, then it comes
Oh,
out through my direct line. So 760, the San Diego County area code. So
got
sometimes
it.
I do that because we can see the MC number. MC is a motor carrier number, and usually
Mhm.
when it has a zero, it's a newer company, so they're not started up yet. So that's how I know whether or not to go about a certain way. Because if I see an 8 or a 9 number started out, I know they've been in business for like 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean? So, but
Got
if
it.
I see a new MC number, sometimes out of just curiosity and like, hey, maybe I can get this guy. I just hang up and then I redial again, so it shows a 760 number. So it's a different number, and
Nice,
sometimes it
nice.
works surprisingly. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
that way,
your
yeah,
your IT department can, you being a leader, and I saw your scoreboard, so you're up there, right?
uh,
So leaders can be heard, right? Leaders are heard because they want to duplicate you. And
yeah,
so if you suggest and say, hey, there should be a feature in the CRM where when we hang up, we are able to hit redial and it hits the same from the same number. And
yeah,
the reason why that's effective, even if you're not a dialer, if you get the opportunities, whenever you call and then you hang up and you call again, the likelihood of them answering the phone is high because they think it's their friend, right? Or they think
yeah.
it's an emergency. And sometimes it's effective, but then it's all about, well, what do you say? And
Hmm.
so and so depending if you have an email address or what limited information,
what, an effective way to approach it or to start the conversation is to act as if it's already on its way.
Yeah.
So you begin your line like saying, "Hey, this is Kevin getting back to you. Hey, I just want to let you know it's the information that is already, it's on its way to your email address. It's actually going to contain some real helpful information now that you're starting your business, or the lingo that they're used to, right? Now that you have your trucking license, you're going to want to keep that information. I flagged it, so the subject line reads blah 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 blah." Because what's going to happen is you're probably now getting a lot of calls. You're going to receive a lot of emails. This is going to happen now that you are a business owner. But the reason why I'm getting back to you, right, and then going back into it, the reason why I'm getting back to you on a recorded call with eCapital is because it's time stamped. So you're going to receive this email. Get it? So it's now you've made the disclosure of who you're with. It's a recorded call, but also it's time stamped. So it makes it seem like there's more authority, and you're building suspicion or I'm sorry, curiosity
But
towards
they're gonna
what
ask, well,
that's
what is it about, Kevin? Yeah.
exactly. Say, well, what it's about is it's going to help you ramp up your first, because I would imagine probably are you just talking to truckers who are brand new licensed?
No, it's either CEOs of trucking companies, their own authority companies, and either they've been in the business for a while, for 15 to 20 years. They already have sustained cash. They don't need the cash flow, or they're
Yep.
brand new. They're kind of don't have enough money, so they need that cash flow because they got to pay for gas and all that stuff. So yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. But my
So
biggest point there is too is our process, just to have clarity of it, is we
yeah,
have to send it after, because I have to do 4 qualifications, right? How many
right.
trucks, what kind of trailer truck do they have, and then their email,
Mhm.
right? And once I get those, then I can pass them to my consultant. And my consultant talks to them about rates, just similar to the mortgage industry rates and stuff like that, and they close a deal. And at the end of the call, I'll be honest, they're not all the consultants aren't really salesy. They just kind of tell the rates and like, hey, do you want this or not? It's kind of
Yeah.
frustrating sometimes. But
Yeah.
they ask them, would you like me to send out the application, or okay, we're gonna get the application sent out and stuff like that. And then if that call goes well, if that person seems interested in filling out the application later on and doing a follow-up call with them, then they'll accept my turnover. So I get commission for accepted turnovers.
Got it.
Just so you have clarity. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
No, so I get a good understanding.
yeah,
It's very similar to our industry because we have customer service representatives who essentially do the same thing. They'll filter it, capture some information, hand it off to a loan agent, right?
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so and that's how I started off as.
Okay.
That's originally my same position. And
Mm-hmm.
so you had mentioned these certain words, and if you watch any of my content, I have this one thing that I talk about where it's called triggering, right? You're triggering certain emotions, certain reactions.
Yeah.
And just like the statement on a recorded call, it's triggering a reaction that, oh, this is a customer service or it's a business call.
Yeah.
And the same similar words can also have triggers like applications, or like we're going to send out an estimate, or would you like to apply, where we kind of have to change our tonality and the momentum. And it sucks because you only have so much control before you hand it off to the person who
Yeah.
just sounds
And
like an advertisement, right?
sometimes when I say, hey, my consultant's going to come on the line and show you a percentage of what we can offer you, and they get all, oh, I'm actually busy. Oh, I'm going to call.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Or like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
Kevin, I can't right now. It's
yeah,
like frustrating because it's like
yeah.
I know it's something they can use as a solid lead, but
Sure.
it's just I'm trying to go about it a different way so it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like that. You know what I mean?
So first step is to get him with the hook, and I think you're good at that, right? You're getting the
Oh,
hook. You want to get him into like, well, what are you sending, right?
yeah.
And then when they ask that question, the response would be, well, actually, let me help you save some time first. Let me even make sure that this is even applicable. The good news is that if I find out it is, then all these phone calls and all these emails you can go ahead and disregard, right? Because you're
Yeah.
going to get blown up by everyone. You're going to be offered by everyone, but you don't want to waste any time in actually returning a call just to find out it doesn't apply or you can get better. So the reason why most truckers, or why a lot of there might be a term, I don't know the term, the lingo that they understand, that they know, right? Like loan officers, right? Like not everyone knows loan officers. People think mortgage bankers or bankers. We
Yeah.
have inside terminology to define us, and we call
Yeah.
ourselves bankers. And so
Okay.
truckers may have that similar word, right? And say why bankers or why truckers in your area prefer eCapital is because blah 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 blah. And so you list out the kind of the initial benefits that they have, and
Did I say their
you're
city name?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly because I did this one video where it was talking about people don't know what they like what they know. And the faster that you can start reiterate or saying things that they know that they like for example, if you have their address and
Yeah.
say, hey, just giving you confirmation, Jim, this is Kevin. I'm actually sending out to your address on, Lake Forest Drive, right?
Yeah.
Because they know it.
Uh-huh.
And so now you've positioned yourself in a different position. Like, how does this guy know me? How does he know my address? Blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to be a little bit more curious and want to hear more.
Yeah, they're
And
not
just,
going to want to hang up or say I don't need anything
yeah,
because I'm actually saying something that's important. They're going to be like, okay, what is this? You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. That's good.
Even when it gets up to the transfer, right? You might have a custom saying like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and get an agent on the phone to give you an application or to send you out the information. That ultimately becomes the carrot, right? And so you become the guard and say, hey, the only way that I can move forward is if I know that I can help you, right? The good news
Yeah.
is if I can help you, I'm gonna show you exactly what I could do. But if I can't, I'm gonna point you in the right direction so you can ignore and disregard a lot of those spam calls,
Hmm.
right? And say this is why truckers in Orange County appreciate us is because we help them save time. But more importantly, as you're gaining your experience and putting your seat time in, and these are industry jargon, like insider jargon that they understand, right? While
Yeah.
you're ramping up your seat time to get more experience and attract more vendors, it's important that you keep consistent. And the last thing you want to do is worry about if your bill is going to get paid. So
Hmm.
ultimately, truckers use eCapital because we have inside information on these vendors. We know if they're behind, if they have enough credit to even deliver. Because, well, what if you take a job from them and
Hmm.
they can't pay you? You could have alternatively taken a job from a vendor that could have paid you. But here's the thing, let me make sure that you even call, right? And so now you build up the curiosity more. But here's the
Yeah.
thing, let me make sure I could help you save some time first. I need to know if this is even something that we can provide you,
Uh-huh.
right? And then now they want it because they figure how it's going to protect them.
Hmm. But
Whereas
I
when you,
don't. You don't think I should explain what the word factoring and how it works yet, or you think I should just keep doing that and then say it at the end? Or
yeah, because
hmm.
people like what they know,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So if I say factor, it's like it's industry jargon for me. Like if I said loan to value or LTV, they're not going to necessarily know what
Yeah.
it means, right?
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
but there's that. It sounds cool to us, and we might be using it as leeway. And if you could build hype around factoring, that's cool. It's about timing though. And
Yeah.
so if you say, hey, do you know what factoring is? That's something that's foreign to them, or it may be foreign to them, or it could anchor them to think of another competitor who also taught them what factoring is. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So if
Yeah.
you have another competitor using the word factoring and that's how they learned of it, they're going to kind of anchor you with that experience. And
Yeah, because a
so,
lot of the guys who do sound like they already know what it is, but they're not started up yet. Because I get some of those, right?
yep,
It's because they've talked to other factoring companies from all the calls. So,
yep, yep.
hmm, yeah.
So
Also, I
ultimately,
didn't.
you're
Go
tying you're
ahead.
selling fear. You're selling fear of what will happen if they don't have the capital. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Uh huh.
So how you can relate that to your prospect, to your leads, is going to be completely up to you because you know your dynamics a little bit easier, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the biggest recommendation, I think you're already on it, and that's why you're already at the top of the charts, is you're leveraging curiosity. You're all about positioning, and I think that roots also with your experience in soccer because it's all about positioning, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's about patience and it's about rhythm, right? Because
Hmm.
you have to be in a specific rhythm. And so the same thing applies with sales. You're following the rhythm. And so if you're outbound calling and you
Yeah.
already know you're going to meet up with resistance and these people just want to filter
Hmm.
information, number one is that if they answer the phone, that's great, right? Because a lot of people probably don't. But
Yeah.
if you have to leave a voice message, I got this one video link I'll send to you. It's a
Saw that
voice
this morning
message.
in the live.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
money, man.
Yeah.
And when you set up the transfer to the agent, it's always something like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and release this information out to you. I'm going to get it sent through an agent, so they're going to add in a few items that you're going to want to keep. And
Mhm.
when they connect with you, they're just going to confirm a few things before they send it out. It's just going to take a minute, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that way, it's kind of looking at that consultant not as a closer, because the wordplay before you transfer it to that
Consultant.
agent, yeah,
Yeah.
it might be sales. Like, hey, I'm gonna transfer you to a sales agent, and these how the consumers, all businesses do that, and so they're
Yeah.
already kind of expecting it.
Yeah. Because what I say is usually instead of that, um, I tell him what I'm ask. I see where he's at with factoring, like, hey, you familiar with what factoring is? If he doesn't, I explain it. If he does, great. Have you been talking to the companies? Awesome. Let me give you a chance to compare and show you what we can offer you. And
Yeah.
then what I say before I transfer them over, I say, hey, my consultant's going to hop on the line. He's going to verify a couple of things and show you what we can offer you with regards to percentage and benefits as well. And then we'll get you on the way with that email. Okay.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then they're like, they kind of, agree to, like, okay. So I bring them on, and the consultant comes on the line, and then we're all three on the line together. Right. And then I explain to the consultant the situation. Hey, we got John. He's going to be running with 2 trucks in a few weeks. He knows what factoring is. He wants to know what we can offer him. So that's kind of how it goes. So with that, I mean, do you think I should bring up factoring? Because if they hear, timing and cash flow, you think I should say the word? Because when the consultant comes on the line, they're going to bring up factoring, and I feel like it's going to be a new idea for them,
Sure.
Because I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
call away, so it brings value, and it brings an accepted turnover versus just trying to get as much, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe that becomes your bridge, right? So right before
Yeah.
you lean over to him, you build up the anticipation. You said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, hey, Jim, basically what all this information has to do with, there's a terminology for it. It's called factoring. And so what I'm
Okay.
going to do is I'm going to actually get this all packaged up for you so that you have your factoring package for your
Okay.
records or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, give it some kind of neat name and
Yeah.
say, we're going to go get this over to you. I'm going to have one of our factor specialists go ahead and prep that for you. And so it's all
Like
buttoned up by the time it gets to your inbox,
that.
right? So it's
Yeah.
actually on its way. Just let me go ahead and connect you. He's going to go ahead and release it because you have more than 2 trucks or because you have more than 1 truck. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense? Now it makes it feel a little bit tailored to them,
Yeah.
right? I'm not sure how much information you can extract besides a truck, like if they're, if they have invoices that are outstanding, or if you could find out that they are in need of money.
I don't. So
Okay.
basically, before I transfer them over, I have to. It doesn't show us at all for anything. I have to figure out how many trucks they have, what kind of trailer, dry van, reefer, and then I have to get their email. I have to have those 3 things before I send them over.
Okay.
So
So the use
I
of
kind of got to fill
story,
that information out.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
So
use
what do you think
of
could add that?
story.
Uh-huh.
The use of a story, how to transfer the emotion is again things that they know. So
Mm-hmm.
if you could say things, if you could avoid explaining the service in words that either trigger them to think it's a business or
Mm-hmm.
words that may intimidate them because
Yeah.
they don't understand it and they're kind of at a scared position,
Yeah, because I
right?
get those where it's like, oh, why do you want my email? I want to see the percentage and what we can offer first. You know what I mean? I get those a
Yep.
lot. And
Yep.
it's like I can't. We're not allowed to send them over without getting an email. That's your qualifications, right?
Yep.
So sometimes it's kind of annoying. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I still send them over, and I just tell my consultant, hey, it was tough getting his email. Can you get it before you send out the application? You know what I mean? If you do, but you know what I mean? It's those little bumps that, because sometimes I tell them the way I'm going on the call now is, do you know what the service is factoring, right? And sometimes they hear of it and they're just comparing rates. So like, yeah, what's your rate? And my consultant deals with that. We can't tell them the rate.
Right.
And I got to get those qualifications before I get them over. So when he says, what's the rate? I kind of just say, hey, yeah, it's all customized. So how many trucks do you have? And a lot of them are just like, oh, no, just give me the rate, right? Like you guys probably deal with too. But
Yep.
some of the times it goes good. And then after the truck's trailer, and then I ask them an email, like, oh, what's a good email we can send the information out before I give them the rate. And it's just kind of it's like a turnoff because it's like they just want to hear the rate, but I got to get the email.
Yeah.
So bringing
Yep.
up
So
those
how
qualifications as easy as possible so it's smooth, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I get the same objection all the time, but it
Yeah.
sounds like what's your rate, what's your bottom line rate, what's your cost, right? So it's the exact same objection, and
Yeah.
how to respond it is actually agree, and so make them believe it's on their way. Say, yeah, I'm gonna go and send that out to you. Which email should I send it to?
Okay.
Does that
I
make
like that.
sense? So
Yeah.
now it's their bridge to get their answer versus positioning it where like, hey, so that I could send all the information out to you. What's your email address? That leaves it open for them to
Yeah.
respond with something they want
And they're going to
first,
run
right?
with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're going to run with it, and now we change the dynamic of that engagement. And
Mm-hmm.
so even if you have to catch it sooner, like position the email question because you know that that's going to be your bridge to even get to an agent, right?
Uh-huh.
Like you
Yeah.
need that just to get to an agent. So
Uh-huh.
so get that piece as early or in the right time as possible.
Yeah.
So like, hey, this is Kevin, just getting back to you. I wanted to confirm we can mail out the information out to your address on Lake Forest Drive, or I can email it to you. It's super quick. I'm just going to go ahead and email it to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say, well, what does this have to do? Well, what this has to do with is blah, 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 right? And then you go into somewhat your pitch, but it sounds like it's on its way and it's not a sale. It's more or less like it's part of licensing per se.
Right.
Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense? So
Yeah.
like if you think of when you got licensed or when someone gets licensed, if you get a county worker call you, it's not sales. It's
Mm-hmm.
just confirmation, right?
Right.
Just hey, this is Kevin. Just getting
I
back
like
to you. Hey, I
that.
need to confirm I'm sending the package out. I can send it to the Lake Forest Drive property address, or I can email it to you. Right now, they're like, who? What? Who's
Mm-hmm.
this person? And just like it's already on its way. And say, well, what's on its way is protection for your business. So I understand that you have a few, or you may have one or a few trucks or truck liners, or you know, what I mean, there's some
Yeah.
sort of word that you use for it,
Mm-hmm.
and then say, well, it's important that you have this information because at some point there are going to be invoices that are outstanding. And in order to protect yourself from running into a deficit with your business and putting your truck at risk, we want to at least
Yeah.
help you, right? Help you with the information we have. So we basically give truckers inside information on which vendors are in default or which vendors are, you know what I mean, like behind on their payments. Because
Yeah.
what we found is by giving you this information, you can make the right decision to take on only the jobs that you know will be paid. Got it? Now
Yeah.
they're like, oh, well, fuck, go ahead and send it. Okay,
I
cool.
like
What
that.
email address? Oh, the
Okay.
email address is blah 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 at iCloud. Okay, cool. So what ultimately what I'm talking about is factoring, and what's going to happen is if I, you know, if we or if I can provide any value, then what I'll do is I'll connect an agent. But let me see first. Let me help you save some time. That way, I don't even need to send it. I
Oh
don't need to
shit.
send a bunch of papers to your address on Lake Drive. And more importantly, you probably don't have to get back to a lot of these calls and phone calls. So I'm gonna help you save a bunch of time. Let me make sure this is right for you, and then go into the questions. How many trucks you got? Right?
Okay. I like that.
Blah blah. Right? What? Okay, cool. So yeah, you know what? Because you got 3 trucks or because you got 6 trucks, let me go ahead and button this up for you so the information you receive is worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm going to go ahead and connect you with the factoring specialist. He's just going to go ahead and button it up and make sure all the information is legal, and then send it out to you. That information is definitely worth its weight in gold because it gives you a snapshot of what vendors not to work with,
Yeah.
right? Because that's ultimately their guard that's their lifeline, and they're going to be motivated to take on jobs while at the same time their risk
Mm-hmm.
is whether or not they're going to get paid for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I would go about it that way.
Yeah.
Does that make
Sometimes I
sense?
feel like too. That's very solid. Sometimes I feel like too is I send over a lead, and if I do too much selling or try to convince them too much, and it doesn't really sound like it's something they need. And when I send them over, the consultants sometimes get mad at me. They're like, dude, that was a bad lead, dude, or what the heck, you know what I mean? Just outside of
Yeah.
work, like, oh man, he didn't need it. He just said send the email. Yeah, send the email. You know what I mean? And when
Okay.
someone says yeah, just send an email, they're not going to accept it because they don't think they're going to apply for it. It's not the application, right, to actually do this. So they defer
So
it. But sometimes
so
it's just like quality of, you know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead.
when you transfer to the agent, do you have a minute to do a soft transfer? Like you talk to them with the client off the line real quick?
Yeah. I'm like, if John picks up my consultant, I'm like, hey John, we got Alex on the line. You know, he's new to this factoring. I just told him about it. He likes the idea of it. He's starting in a few weeks under 2 trucks for the drive-in, and he wants more information about it. What we can offer him as far as percentage and everything like that.
Got
That's
it.
kind of
Do
what I
they
do
say
it.
the notes you put into the CRM?
Yeah, they put the link up. I send them the link through Skype Business, and they pull it up and they see all the trucks and emails and everything they have.
Got it. So at some point in the conversation, are you able to hear what fear they have, or what help they need, or what experience they have?
When they're talking to the consultant,
Like goals per se? No, when they talk to you before you hand it off to consultant.
fears
Like
and
they want to know
goals.
the rate for some reason, right? Like they want to
Yeah,
know, well, what's your rate? They want to know it because they're interested and they know they need it. It's kind of like health
yeah,
insurance. Like, okay,
yeah,
well, let me go ahead and hear your rates.
yeah. I get that a lot.
Okay,
So
so capture.
sometimes I just say, I like these, but these can kind of be tough sometimes because again, the qualifications we have to do.
Mhm.
Is I call it a guy, hey, it's Kevin with the Capital. How's it going? Good, good. We do factoring, and he's like, oh yeah, what's your rate? Instantly, and I know it's the
Yeah,
rate got to get over, but sometimes they just want to know the rate, and I got to qualify and just slows the process down. And he's like, no, just call me back later after I say my consultant's come on the line, right? Because he just
yeah,
wants to get the
yeah,
rate. I say, yeah, okay,
yeah.
we'll give you that
It's
rate. My
probably the word
consultant,
factor.
Yeah, my consultant does the percentages and everything like that. He's gonna hop on the line like, oh, not on time. You know what I mean? Shit like that.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah,
So if
that's kind of
you
the
ask
fear.
them, and yeah, if you ask them like, because rate, like what we do is we leverage off the rate. The reason why they ask us our rate is because they're comparing it to the rate that they already have. So if they already
Okay.
have the service, right, then say, well, good question. Let me go ahead and make it tailored to you. I'm gonna tell you whether or not I can beat the one that you have now. What's your rate now? Are
Okay.
you able to ask that? Is that even
Yeah,
a
I am. Yeah, I
question?
do ask that because a lot of the
Okay.
newer companies, if I see 3 or 4, I don't go about the call. Oh, have you heard of factoring? I go about it. Hey, we do factoring. You guys already factoring? And sometimes, the majority of the time, they're going to be like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, are you guys pretty happy with them? How's everything going over there? And they say 5%, and our percent is 2.5. I mean 2.75.
And where's everyone
But
else at? You said
it
3.
depends. There's like 20 different companies, but usually I get like a 4% or 5%, and I know it's a good lead. I'm like, awesome. Let's give you a chance to compare. It's pretty high. Usually I ask them, I'm like, that's pretty high. You guys okay with that? And that builds
Yeah.
curiosity. So they ask me, oh, what's your rate? And that's the what I want to hear, right? That's why I ask that. And then I get them over. But the thing about factoring of getting out of a contract, because every company has to do a contract a year long, is you have to pay a buyout fee. And that's usually a half a percentage of the invoices you send in. So it's going to be like $2,500. That's why whenever I
Mm.
send somebody over who's already having it or factoring and he's getting a higher rate, the consultants already in their mind know, oh, this never happens. We don't really do that much buyouts. So whenever I've sent over like a guy who had like a 5% to my guy, and we have a 2.75, right? And I was just shocked. I'm like, how do we? This is like my first month. I was like, how do we not get this accepted? How do we not get the application out?
Yeah.
Because I sent him over, and the consultant was like, oh, you guys pretty happy with the service? Okay, well, it seems like you're in a good setup. Well, have it going. We'll check with you in a few weeks or so. See if you're still happy with
Yeah.
them. Something like
It
that.
just
It's like,
sounds like those
fuck.
agents are lazy. It sounds like those
It
salespeople
is
are
because it's
lazy. They're
not.
just
It's
looking
not.
for laydowns, right?
It is. A lot of the
Yeah.
consultant, majority of them, they're not doing sales. They just say, "Hey, here's a percentage. Would you like an application?" Um, it's
You
difficult though
almost got to
because
tell the agent how to sell them. Like, hey, this
yeah,
person wants
yeah,
this, this, and this, blah, blah, blah. Just
yeah.
sign them up for this.
It's so frustrating sometimes because you get a good lead over there, and just the way they say some of the things, it kind of ruins it. Like I could totally do that.
Yeah.
I'm part timer. That's why I actually don't want to do that. I actually want to do in the mortgage industry, but it's just
Okay.
frustrating sometimes though because you get somebody over who has a high percentage. We can totally help them out. But just the whole buyout thing, they already have it in their head. Oh, we rarely do buyouts. Our company only had 2, 3 to 5 buyouts this past year. I'm not going to get this guy. They kind of just put it out. Oh, you seem pretty happy. Like whenever we do
Oh,
buyouts,
I
it's because
see.
somebody's
Yeah.
always up. Somebody's pissed off about their current company, making them want to
Yeah.
buy out. You know what I mean?
Is that what determines their rate though? Like our in the mortgage credit and LTV will determine the rate,
Yeah,
right?
it
Is
determines
that
the
the same
rate.
with them?
No, of how much they do per month, how much they're going to factor per month, right? So if they're going to factor 100,000 per month, it's going to be a lower rate versus if they're going to factor 30,000 per month, it's going to be a higher rate,
Got it.
right? But it's usually around 2.75 to 3, maybe even to 2%. We're not the
Got it.
cheapest, we're not the most expensive, but that's why I don't really send over people who are already with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of difficult. It's frustrating. You know?
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So that question obviously comes up. So you got to have a good way to respond to it and take back the attention, right? And
Yeah.
so if someone said, if I was in your shoes right now, if I had to hit the phones and I was doing what you did right now, and
Yeah.
someone said, hey, well, what's your rate? I said, well, great question. The only thing that I can give you, or the only way that I can help you, is if I can beat what you have right now, right?
Yeah.
And so if they say, what's, you say, hey, what's your rate? And they say, I'm at 5%. The best way to respond to it is say, oh, wow, do you know why they're charging you that much? Is it because
Yep.
you're A, B, and C, right? Is it because you're
Yeah.
only doing a small amount? And then they're
Hmm.
going to say, yeah, blah, 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 only doing 30,000. Oh, I see. Okay, well, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and connect you with a factoring specialist to make sure that you're not paying more than you need to. Just because you have a lower rate, I'm sorry, a lower balance or a lower buyout doesn't mean you should pay more than you need to. So here's the thing: is that the only information I can send to you is information that can help you. See, we operate a little bit different than all these other factoring companies. And the reason for that is because we're more focused about expanding our brand awareness. And so if we can
Yeah.
help you in an efficient way, we grow faster this way. So let me go ahead and get you over to one of the agents. They're going to send you out the information. It's going to be all about it, and then kind of address that rate, but get it back to a point where you can extract more information. Because typically
Uh-huh.
that question is going to be your line in the sand, right? Like
Yeah.
if you say the wrong question, then the call's done.
Yeah.
And as far as like the sales agent you transfer to, man, it sucks. But It
It
just
does.
sounds
That's
like
just
they
how the
almost,
company is. Yeah, you know.
yeah, it just
And
sounds
when
like
I
they,
first came in, I was like, what? They can't fucking learn how to sell higher rates. I mean, lower rates. It's like frustrating, you know. It's like, come on, because I mean, I know
yeah,
mortgages, you got to sell higher rates sometimes, right?
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
saying,
all the time, all the
yeah.
time.
And it's like, it's
But it's
sometimes
the result.
yeah, sometimes I think of it, and I tell them this too. Like sometimes on break or lunch, I tell them, I'm like, what if you present it in a way of, over time, if they keep paying this higher rate, it's going to be more than their actual buyout fee. You know what I mean? And they're like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, but they just have. There's no way around that. I feel like it's just sometimes how it is. And my manager says, because he manages just us, the new business coordinators, and there's factoring
Yep.
consultants. They have different managers. My manager's like, hey, if you're sending over a lot of people who have to have it and they're getting deferred, send me the link, and we're going to talk to the consultants of how we can do better, because we do buyouts, but they're kind of going way of trying not doing them. They're not really doing the job, so it's
Yeah.
frustrating. That's kind of like the company
It's
problem.
really
But
just on the when you do the handoff. So
what
when you
to
hand off the
say?
baton, when you
Yeah.
hand off the baton to the factoring agent, it's really it's in our way when you get into the mortgage industry. It's
Mm-hmm.
our way of kind of setting up the expectation to go to processing. Because when it
Yeah.
goes to process, or even if it goes to a loan agent, you have to kind of set up the expectation in a way where they're not going to be caught off guard, but you're
Yeah.
also communicating to the agent you transfer what their hot buttons are,
Yeah.
and that has a lot to do with understanding what they go through and kind of their setup. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you'll recognize the names because you see these people in the break room, right?
Yeah.
So if you know you're being connected to Kevin, or I'm sorry, not Kevin, but let's say James, the
Mm-hmm.
factoring consultant, you kind of will get an understanding of how James operates,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so you'll be like, hey James, I got one for you. It's gonna be focused on this, this, and this. And I'm not saying that you have to memorize the factoring agent's selling style, but you'll get a gist. Like, man, I hate this agent. They always they always give up
For
easily.
myself. Yep. That happens. Yep.
Yeah, you probably have
It,
a couple of those names already in mind.
yeah. And there's something sometimes. How I do it is I ask them, well, what are they offering you guys? What's your percentage there? And they say 5%. I'm like, oh, it's pretty high. You guys okay with that? And they ask me,
Hmm.
what's your rate? And then I usually say, let's say, what if we could get you a lower rate? What would you do with an opportunity like that? I'm basically asking them in a different way if they really go through this, if it were to present himself. And then so it's never really like, oh yeah, I would do it, or it's never really like, oh no. It's more of like a in the gray answer. So that's why when I turn them over, sometimes I tell the consultants, hey, he said if you were to get a quality percentage, he would consider it or something like that. But I think what I'm more kind of focused on is dialing down and being more sharper on the newer leads who don't really know what the service is. Because if I feel
Yeah,
like if I'm trying to perfect this pitch of sending people who already have it or know what it is, it's not gonna get accepted. Like it really does get accepted,
and
which is
that's where the
frustrating.
bucket comes in, right? So you're gonna have
Yeah,
people who don't really know what factoring is, people who know what factoring is, and
who
then
already have
people
it.
who already
Yeah.
have it, right? And so
Mhm.
whenever you find out those three, it's kind of like a change and kind of a flip in approach,
Yeah, and
and
I
so
can
you gotta
tell
kind of,
by which lists, because
okay,
there's
good,
certain lists, different calls. So we get on the good list at like 7:30, and that's usually like an hour, 2 hours long, which is nice. And then we go on the bad list of people who are already in business for like 10 to 15 years. They don't need it. They have enough money. You know what I mean? And then we go on a list who people already have it, and I know which list is which way to go about it. That's why usually all my accepted majority of the whole team, it's usually on the good list. Realistically,
right.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
those who are already kind of hip on game, or they know what factoring is, or they have a factoring provider already, a way to extract the information. I think that's what you're trying to do is like, hey, what do you like about that, or what do you want? What's the
What
qualities
would you
you want?
change? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically extracting the right information, right? Like, hey, why'd you pick them? Okay, well, here I can help you save some time. What do I need to deliver in order for you to even consider me, right?
Uh-huh.
And so now you
Yeah.
just get straight to the point, and they're going to say,
Yeah.
well, you got to do this, 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 and this, and say, okay, well, here's the thing: is I have an idea. Let me connect you over with the factoring agent. They're going to confirm if whether or not we could do this. If not, then we're going to save you a bunch of time. But if so, then they're going to send it to you, and then you'll know, at least for your own record, that you have a better alternative here with eCapital.
Yeah, I just feel like that whatever I do, no matter how good I do it, for the people who already have
Yeah,
it, and I can get them lower. When I get them over, it's just they're just gonna buffer it. It's like they just literally talking themselves out of the cell on purpose, just because they know it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? It's like
man,
how
that's a
quick. It's
grind,
frustrating.
dude.
That's just the company. That's why I'm more focused on the newer leads who don't know what it is, who are starting up soon. How I can be sharper with that, because I
Yep.
know I probably get at least 60% of those over, and I want to make that 80. You know what I mean? 80%,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
already at that level. So I'm just trying to, really in tune it and really clear up the objections I was giving you. So one of them we talked about is people who are just getting a bunch of calls. They just block me off the start, right? Another one is
Yeah.
when I tell them after I qualify, get the qualifying questions, is it telling them my consultant's going to come on the line. They usually say, "Oh, I don't have time. Open. Can you call me back?" And I call them back and answer. "Oh yeah, what
Right.
percentage? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna get my consultant on the line. Oh, I don't have time right now." So, stuff like that. So, what would be a good way to present my consultant coming on the line for people who don't know what it is, and like sort of like a rebuttal if it does come up of, "Oh, I don't have time. Oh, can you call me
Yeah.
back?"
So it's the same response to people who don't know, right? Like, and also
Yeah.
those who say who they don't have time is
Uh-huh.
say, okay, well, in that case, let me just go ahead and make sure the information I sent to you is worth your time, then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they might be like, hey, what's your rate? I don't have time right now. Say, yeah, no worries. I know you're busy, so that's why I'm just going to go ahead and send it out to you so you can see it.
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
if you decide to, just decide to take on it, at least you have it for your record.
Mm-hmm.
But here, let's do this first. Let me make sure it even applies to you, right? And then, because what they're wanting to do is get you off the phone. So when they say they don't have time, that's just their defense mechanism
Mm-hmm.
to defend themselves.
Yeah.
But how
Usually,
we,
I overcome it in two different ways. Um, it's kind of funny how I do it, but usually why I do this is because if they say that and if it's bullshit, they go with it after I have overcome the objection. If I know it's real and they actually don't have time, then they say it again, right? So usually someone, it's ringing, right? Oh yeah, I'm gonna get my phone online. You can hear it ring, and I have it ring, and they're like, oh, they panic, right? Because it's like a ring. I'm transferring them over, but I can still talk to them, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't have time. Usually what I say is, okay, no worries, we'll make it quick for you, and I go on with the question. So tell me about your experience in the business, Or I usually say, they say it all the time. I just totally ignore it. I'm like, oh no, what I was asking you, John, is what's your experience in the business like? And then they just go with it because it's bullshit, right? It's a bullshit objection, and it works surprisingly some of the times. So that's kind of what I do now. But what I need to be sharper as if sometimes when I get them over, right when I do the ringing, they just hang up, and it's like, hello, you still there?
yeah.
So just kind of
See
presenting
what?
it in a better way so it's more appealing and they want to stay on the line.
Yes. You just got to make it easier for them to comply. And
Yeah.
so when you make it easier for them and make sure that they save time, or save money, right? These are just things that they're tied to emotionally.
Uh-huh.
So people, like, even if they, like, let's say you get someone that's brand new, they're
Mhm.
probably going to be a little bit more intimidated or defensive,
Yeah.
right? Because they want to protect themselves maybe, and they don't want to be sold or taken advantage of, because these people are
Yeah.
getting offered by everyone and anyone, right?
Yeah.
So they're just getting hit up by all these different insurance policies,
Yeah.
factoring, safety things or licenses or whatever. And so you just have to really kind of stand out. And the only ones that really stand out is just kind of treating them, tonality is always important, right? The tonality is very important, but
Yeah.
identifying what questions you're asking. And if you're asking open-ended questions when they believe they're in a hurry, we got to kind of almost immediately funnel them and then open-ended or ask an open-ended question, meaning that, oh yeah, like to say, hey Daniel, I don't got any time. Yeah, no worries. I'm just gonna go ahead and email it to you. At least that now you have the record. But let me make sure it even applies to you. Blah blah blah. Say basically what we do is we ensure people at least have one or more trucks. You got one or more? Yes. Okay. Cool. So it applies to you, or some that they're going to say yeah to, right? And it funnels them, and then you're able to ask an open-ended question and say, hey, before I send this out to you, and then ask the open-ended question, right?
Yeah.
Like, how
So the
long you
thing
been doing
about it,
this?
they're
Yep.
more in tune because a lot of times I ask yes or no questions way too much, and like, yeah, my
Yep.
consultant's gonna come on the line, okay? Like, yeah, 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 and they hang up.
Yeah.
It's like that's
They
why I
feel
get
like
advertised.
because they're going through an application process where you got to kind of make it like a conversation,
Yeah.
and say, okay, well, cool. Let me help you save some time. Always kind of teetering to that, right? Okay, cool.
Right.
Like, so
Yeah.
real quick. So real quick. Okay, cool. When I send it to your iCloud, or when I send it over, what is, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So they believe it's already on its way, but you're always hooking back with one more question. Okay, okay, got it. So when I send it over to you, what is, right? Okay, cool. So real quick, what is, it's always kind of immediately teetering to the fact that they don't have time. Say,
Yeah.
okay, so I want to make sure I help you save some time. So let's do this, right? It's always kind of leading back, but then taking back the attention and driving it.
Okay.
But the first set of questions that you get has to be some sort of emotional tie, and then logic comes into play through. It sounds like the sales agent, right? They basically have to, filter it and breeze through and figure out whether or not they're going to sign up or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this to you, but a lot of factoring companies have benefits. Ours does,
Okay.
so we give them like a fuel card. Our fuel card gets them up to 30 cents off per gallon. So I kind of
Yep.
add that in too, which helps a lot. I mean, they like that. So
Yep.
and then sometimes we'll actually give them access to a load board, and that gives them a list of shippers and brokers so they can find more work off of. So these are a couple
Okay, good.
benefits I
Yeah.
can add too. You know what I mean? So that's what I do
Yeah.
too as well.
Yeah, differentiation, but to make it sound like not a sale, you
Mhm.
basically you say statements that make them perk up. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is statements like, "Hey, the only way I can move forward is," right? Or "Hey, the only way that I can even help you is," or "The
Mhm.
only reason why you would want to work with me is," right? And then they'll perk it, they'll listen up, and then whatever you say, they'll fully absorb.
Uh-huh.
And so that's probably a good time to spit it there and say, "Hey, the only reason why you want to even work with me is because we give insurance or we give these benefits that really," and just kind of and translate it in a way that they're going to understand, but
Yeah.
use words that they know, right?
Uh-huh.
So you could say, "Hey, I got benefits to give you back gas mileage," but say it in a way that they'll actually relate and experience it, right?
Mhm.
So, and your creativity, I'm sure you're gonna do fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I'm just like usually like, how are you guys planning to save money when you start up? Usually I ask that, and they get
Yep.
curious. Like, I don't know, what do you mean by that? I'm just like, you guys aren't planning to have a fuel card or anything? I kind of make it like surprise, like, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
no, you guys give that? I'm like, yeah, we give you guys one. It's called an EFS fuel card. Gets you up to 30 cents off per gallon. And then
It's
I'm
that
quiet
inside
and I wait.
information, dude.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
wait for them. I wait for them to respond because what I used to do is I used to just name the benefits. I can hear all my other coworkers say this too. Yeah, so we give you guys benefits. We give you a fuel card, access to low board. It's not valuable. That's why you got to ask them questions to get them in tune. That's why when I ask them, yeah, it gives you up to 30 cents off per gallon. I'm just quiet after that and I wait for the response. Oh wow, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Because I want to hear that. I want to bring it out of them. That's
Yep.
normally what I
Yep.
do too. Uh huh. Which
Yeah,
is
yeah, it's good. It's
yeah,
funneling, right? It's
yeah,
you're funneling them to a direction,
yeah.
and you're asking them basically like these benefit questions that kind of put them in that wow factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, right when they say, "Oh wow," is that's when you build up the anticipation to get them connected to the person. That's when you make the sale,
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's just timing. So whether you're talking to the person for 2 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour before it gets to the agent, you want to time that wow, right?
Yeah.
And say, but here's the thing, let me make sure that I can even get that to you. I'm gonna bring on a factoring agent. He's just gonna go ahead and
Oh
kind of
wow, I like that.
pre-underwrite, right? He's
I like
gonna go ahead and pre-underwrite the package, so that way when
that.
you get it, it's worth your time and looking at. You're probably getting a lot of this information right now, and that's empathy, right? And
Mm.
say, here, I appreciate, I enjoyed the time that I spent with you. I talked to a lot of truckers, and I really want to help you, right? And so just make it seem like it's them individually, them, right?
Yeah.
And just take the sales away from it and just fucking
Uh-huh.
cross your fingers and hope that the agent knows what to do with it.
Right? That's the most annoying thing now. Like, it's literally like your commission and your sales based on somebody else. Like, you don't really
Yeah,
have too much
that
control of it,
sucks, man.
which is tough.
That
But
sucks.
I'm doing what I can. But
Yeah,
it's basically like if you were to do a mortgage sale and you were to just give it to some guy, hey, close it for me, right?
yeah,
Just fuck it up,
yeah, yeah,
So why'd you do
yeah.
this?
No,
Yeah.
I completely hear you. And that
Uh,
sales cycle's long, man. So
yeah, right. For that, I bet too. Yeah.
yeah,
But I think, what do you think would be better for? Because the main thing is, they say it on time. That's why I kind of say something before. I'm usually like, hey, we're gonna make this quick for you. I know you don't have too much time. You think it's best to overcome the objection before, and then I go with the process, or what do you think is a good way to kind of get out of their mind they don't have time before I send them over and telling them my consultant's gonna come in the line? You know?
sure. So, of all the calls that you've already done, you already kind of narrowed down to the basically two or three common objections. I don't got time. What's your rate? Blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so your wording, in essence, has to address the objections that you know are going to come up. So
Hmm.
that way you can reference back what you already said. And so it
Yeah.
gives you the opportunity to position yourself to be like, oh no, if you remember what I was saying about blah, 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 or what I was saying about, and it has to do with that objection. So if they keep saying I don't have time, say, oh yeah, no worries. Like I said, I'm just going to go and send it to you real quick, right? And then you take it back. You take back the mic because all they're trying to do is just change the direction of the conversation, but you need it to go
Yeah.
this way in order to go to the agent, right? And a lot
Yeah.
of times they're going to want to veer off in a different path.
Like
And so
they
say,
say, just if I say my consultants to come online, give you a percentage and get your email sent out. They're like, oh, just send me the email. Just send me the email. You know, it's like, and then I
right.
usually say, you know, that's why I get you. That's why I'm getting you to him because he deals with the emails and percentages and everything like that you need. But I feel like there's something better. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, so that doesn't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you can get real psychological with them,
Oh,
and say things that they relate to, like stay in your lane, right? Like,
yeah.
like shit like that. Like what, man, I'm trying to think of these words that they say on that they see on signs, right?
Yeah.
Slow for passing cars or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of use kind of analogies that are in line with what they could relate to. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that's important. And then use of stories. Like you're doing it right now by saying, "Oh, you're not doing this," right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that curiosity. It's like, "Oh
Yeah.
man, check this out. I got the hookup," and that's what attracts them, right? But
Mm-hmm.
fuse in stories that actually address the objections. And so if
Mm-hmm.
they're worried about rate, but it's all overcarry, undercarry, again, I'm not too familiar with the lingo.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like, hey, you know what? I got like this one client that I've worked with for a long time, or I got this one client who needed overhead but not underhead. And so what he was doing was he was basically comparing us to companies that were charging the same price that we do for both, right? And so
Yeah.
they live through the experience of others while at the same time that story is actually answering the objection.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
that's true. And a good example of that too is a lot of the times you get people who are like, "Oh, I'm starting in like a month or a few weeks. I'm not ready for that yet. Oh, I don't want to do that yet." And I used to do this because I overheard it, and a lot of other people do that. Oh no, we don't sign you up today. We just give you a quote and get you an email sent out. I used to say that, but what I learned, and it's so helpful, and now that I'm doing it, because it makes it seem like, oh, we're just going to go with this. It's going to help you. I usually say, oh, yeah, no, I understand. You know, I give them empathy. Oh, I understand. You know, you're not started up. You got a few weeks. You still got stuff like getting insurance and stuff like that, right? And they're like, yeah. And then I just say, okay, yeah, then what we'll do is we'll show you what we can offer you guys. And if it sounds like something you want to use when you start up, then we'll get you an email sent out. So let me just verify a couple of things, John, and we'll get you on the road with that. You know what I mean? So I kind of
Yeah,
bring the
yeah.
level down.
Good.
I'm kind of going on their side versus saying, oh, no, we don't sign you up today. It's like
Yes.
an argument. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's
yeah.
kind of
So
what I
you're doing it
learned, which
right.
is helpful too. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're doing everything right, man. You're
Yeah.
controlling the momentum. You're identifying that curiosity actually attracts, right? You're
Uh-huh.
staying away from the debate. You're following their momentum while still making them believe that they're going to get it. And
Uh-huh.
so if it's about people, if the challenge was to kind of keep attracting them to answer a specific, you already know the objection may come up, but
Yeah.
you have to lead up the kind of your dangling carrot per se is speaking with
Mm-hmm.
that agent,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's when they get their answers.
Yeah.
And man, again, it's a Hail Mary up to the agent, but you'll have the same trials when you get into the mortgage industry, right? There's
Yeah.
always kind of that's something that you just have to adapt to. So if I were
Yeah.
in your position, I got paid a rip based on how many sales that the agent sold. Like I would covertly talk to the sales agents when I see them and say, hey, when you get a transfer over, what do you go through? What makes it easy sale? What are you looking for? Right.
Yeah.
And then
So I
and
can bring
and
it. Yeah.
kind of
I
relate
asked
it
them
that
as
way.
well. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Uh-huh.
that way, when you do the
Yeah.
soft transfer, you kind of know exactly where to hit them. And they like you so much so that when they see your name, they're like, yeah, I got one of those Kevin leads. Oh man,
Yeah.
I got a Kevin lead. I got Kevin. I got Kevin. Right.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
because it's already kind of prepped. And it sounds like it's just like they're lazy, but you're playing to that fact so you can get your way through. We do it
Yeah.
with processors, right? We do it with processors to make them elude that we're doing all of it for them. But in reality, we're doing it for us so
Mm-hmm.
that they will make the sale,
Yeah.
or they'll
Because
process the loan.
usually how it's been kind of recently, is on average people probably send over because we have a board, right? It's awesome because we have
Right.
12 NBCs, new business coordinators, and we had our own cubicle, and then we have a board, a big TV of how many TOs you sent and how many TOs got
Yep.
accepted, and it shows the
Yep.
month. You know what I mean? So it's exciting seeing that. Like I'm always on top, but it shows on average probably no, 6 to 9 get sent over, and only like 4 to 6 get accepted, right? But I'm the
Right.
one who sends over like 16 to like 21 a day, and I get like 8 to like 12 accepted. How I want to
Got it.
fix it is because I feel like I was talking to my manager about this, some tips, is I want to increase that because I know I send over a lot, but it's just I feel like I always at the center of a lot to get a good amount accepted. I want to, have it be more like, okay, I'm gonna get 15 accepted out of like 21 I sent over, right?
Right.
And he was telling me sometimes you're too quick with your calls because, and I was telling him, yeah, that's kind of the case sometimes because I'm more focused on getting them to my consultant versus actually building value. And he's like, yeah, sometimes you need to slow down and build more value of saying, hey, if you don't do this, this might what happen. But if you do factoring, this is going to help you out in this way. So,
right.
With that resonating with you, I mean, building the email, having it already seem like it's already sent in your way. How do I build that value so they know that, just to get them to say yes when they say, do you want our application? I'm going to send you out an application. Is that okay? You know what I mean? The consultant asks that. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So their initial conversation with you should feel like you're kind of helping them find the shortcut, right?
Yeah.
You're basically you're the directory. You're gonna say, hey, you know what? Before I go any further or transfer you to anyone, let me just make sure it's even worth your time, right?
Yeah.
So let me confirm, right? It's always like, let me confirm first.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're building the hype. When they hear you say that, then they feel like they've been filtered, right? Like they're technically applying. But then it just matters on how you ask the application questions. If you ask it in order versus making it a conversation, right? Like in mortgage industry.
Yeah, everybody here sometimes. My
Yep.
coworkers, they ask them, oh, what's the rate? What's your rate? And like, yeah, how many trucks do you have? What are you hauling?
Yep.
Oh, what's your email? It just sounds like shit, That's why I kind of put it in the conversation so it's more smooth.
Yes.
Sometimes, or if I
Yes.
don't, I just say it's all customized. How many trucks you have, but I bring it in, in the conversation too. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's people that just simply you can't help. So there's a ratio that people probably you can't beat their current deal. But I get what you're saying is you just want to be efficient to where when you pass the baton, more is going to convert. And it sounds like you're doing it right. It sounds like you're doing it right to the point where you can keep the attention to make the connection, right?
Yeah.
But it's all about the framing. And so you have a unique position because ultimately you're doing two things. You're filtering and framing. And so you're filtering the information to make sure that you have enough info for the agent, but you're also framing up that call so that they say yes to the application, right? And so I wouldn't say application. I would change it to say, hey, they're going to give you a link to something you got to fill out in order to get it, right? And so that becomes the application. I don't know how they send the application, if it's a link or e-sign or
the PDF, right? I think, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a PDF, right? Yeah. Say, okay, cool. So I'm going to send you over to our factoring agent. I'm going to connect you to one of our best ones because I want to make sure that you get this fast, or I want to make sure you get all the right information that's worth your time. And so ultimately what they're going to do is they're just going to send you a PDF attachment. When you get it, print it out, look at it, and then once you complete it and send it back, we'll go ahead and get this underway. But then you're selling it though, and I think that should be the agent selling it.
Yeah, because if I say that, they're gonna. I feel like because everybody has a chance to listen to the call. So like some of the consultants, this girl I sent over one, and she like, I didn't ask them because we have to qualify them. I mean, one of the qualifications too is if they want to get access to fast cash, like if they actually want to use the service. People ask before they send them over, oh, are you interested in getting your money in 24 hours? I don't ask that. I just assume. So I sent one over, and this girl's like, oh, you didn't ask they're interested. Like, I was like, I don't know. Like, I deferred, but
then drop a little bit more seeds about fear. Drop a little bit more seeds about fear, but like, hey, you know what? You already got your trucks, you already got your business. You're definitely going to need access to capital. You just want to make sure you got access to the right capital, right? Okay. And just kind of like, hey, let's do this, and then just kind of move forward with the with the call.
So don't say anything too much about the application and the PDF and stuff like that.
I'd remove that lingo, just application and them thinking that they're going to give commitment. But then, again, it's the dynamic. You have to be in unison with the sales agent. So I would covertly, get under the sales agent's kind of mindset and their view of what they're looking for. You know what I mean? So that you could just make that entire experience for the prospect pure. It's already good enough to where they're getting connected. Now they're gonna tell you the brutal honesty of what's happening. He's like, once I get connected, they loved you, but once they got to me, they hung up. Right. So you can almost play with it and be like, hey, I'm gonna send you one of these factoring agents. Word of warning though, they're kind of a little bit dull and just service oriented, right? They're just but it's only gonna take a minute. They're just gonna send you the things that you need so you can get to where you want to go. Make sense?
Okay.
So
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 go
and
ahead.
then when they played that back, it's gonna feel a little awkward. Yeah.
That's funny. But so yeah, that's why sometimes like if they defer something, I mean a lot of them they're not driven or they don't really do into sales too much. They don't look at it like that, so it's frustrating.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like say stuff because next they're gonna have in their mind, oh Kevin, I'm gonna defer all this shit. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
you know what I mean. That's why I kind of just shut up. But it's just sometimes it's just like,
Yeah.
but so let's say I got somebody. I see the new MC number. We're on a good list. He doesn't know what it is yet. He's starting up soon. I noticed that by the 0 on his new number that he just applied for. What do you think I should take the call? Like you were saying earlier, can you walk through me of how you think I should go to the call? You know, by
Yeah.
qualifying. Uh huh.
So you mean the lead has 0 or the agent has 0?
The lead. So I just called this guy and it's still ringing. Let's just say I have a good lead and I see that based off the new MC number, he's starting up soon. And how do you
Oh
think
yeah. So
I
he's
should go?
basically saying, hey,
Yeah,
I don't need it right now. I'm not starting for another 4 weeks.
yeah, no, I'm saying about the start of the call. Like let's just go through the process of how you think I should go through a call. Like you were telling me earlier, the start of it, and then
Yeah.
getting my consultant on the line. Can we just go through a whole call together? Like, what do you think? How
For sure.
yeah,
Hold on one second.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, go ahead and let me know what areas you want to get.
Okay. Yeah. So instead of me saying, hey, this is Kevin with V Capital on a recorded line. How's your day? You're say, hey, just this is Kevin V Capital, just following up with you. Or how do you think I should go about the start of it?
Yeah, so I would actually leave the name of the company and the statement of recorded line. I know it's probably a requirement. That's
Yeah,
that you have to do, right?
I used to not
But
do it. My manager got mad at me for not doing it. So
yeah, so it just depends.
yeah,
Like if because some companies require your initial sentence to say that, but then some companies will just require that you disclose it at some point,
okay.
right? So find out what is the requirement and then try to get as close to bending that line as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so how I would start out the conversation if I was calling Jim the trucker, right? Hey Jim, this is Kevin. Just getting back to you. Hey, I got that information. I'm gonna go ahead and send it out to you right now. It's gonna go. I can send it to your Lake Forest Drive address, or I can email it to you. What? Who is this? What are you sending over to me? Yeah, I'm sending you the information that you're gonna need to to then go into your script and say. And so if you saw 0, or if you know that that particular trucker is not going to start for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks,
He doesn't know what the service is.
right? That is the reason, right? And say, hey, we know that you're probably about a couple weeks out, so we want to make sure you have this information because you're about to go into a business that a lot of truckers find, and then go into the fear, the downside of not having the service. But ultimately, what you're doing is addressing the objection. It's going to come in. That's going to say, hey, I don't need this right now. I don't start for 4 weeks. And say, well, that's the whole point why I'm sending it to you is we want to make sure that you don't procrastinate. Otherwise, your vendors will procrastinate with paying you. Got it? And so it kind of just go back into the fear again of not having the right information when they do start and say, the way we operate, the way our clients operate is they take jobs first before they actually get paid. And what we do is we help them ensure that the job that they take, they will get paid. More importantly, the jobs you take and as you get your seat time in, it's important that you have access to the capital to continue taking the jobs. In order to work with most of the vendors you want to work with, they need the experience. While you build up your experience, it's vital that you have the right cash flow or you have the right capital. But more importantly, you're only working with vendors that are going to pay you and have good credit. You see, the only reason you want to work with me, Jim, is I'm going to protect your business. I'm going to ensure that you have the right funds available so you're not at worry, right? That is something like that. Say, here's the thing though. The only way I can help you is if I have a couple things straight. How many trucks you got, right? And then go back into the application. But they feel like, oh, you know what? Before I go any further, let me confirm first. Now it's like, okay, this guy is just going to give me the raw material, right? And so now it's a little bit, but you then drop in, okay, first off, my name is Daniel. It's a recorded line with eCapital. The reason why we're sending out this information, right? And then kind of drop it in that way. But you have to hook them in a different way where you have curiosity, you don't have a guard. And if I called them and said, hey, this is Kevin with eCapital on
How's it
recording,
going today?
immediately they're on guard. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just another business. Fuck, I don't want capital, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
But so then just exchange the words of like, hey,
Okay.
we ensure that you have the right cash flow and access to cash so you could take on more jobs and create the seat time that you need to get the vendors that you want. The vendors who are reliable and good credit, and we have that all in our database, I'm going to release all that to you. I'm going to give you access to that database.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And
So when I give you access to that database, you know who to work with.
okay.
Get it? So you're like their filter. You're like their, you know, it's like Angie's List. Have you heard of Angie's List? Like Angie's List is it's kind of like a Craigslist where if I needed someone to redo my bathroom or redo my kitchen, I would go to Angie's List because Angie's List vetted out all the contractors, so I'm not getting someone suspect to work on my home, right?
Okay.
So it's kind of the same effect that you're doing. You're filtering to protect.
Mm-hmm. So instead of having my call structured the way it is now of seeing where they're at with it, do they know it or do they not, figuring out when they're starting up, qualifying them, telling them what it is, the benefits, and then getting over to my consultant to give them what we can offer them and getting emails sent out. Instead of having it that way, it's best that you're saying right now to have it go, okay, this email is already going to go out. We realize you're starting in a few weeks or so. And he's going to be like, oh, what is this? And then explain to him that this is something you're going to need. And then say, you know what, I have to verify a couple things to see if this applies for you. Or don't say that. What's a good thing to do to build on the qualification questions of how many trucks?
Yeah. So you got the wordplay. It's the sequence of the wordplay, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, hey, Jim, this is Kevin getting back to you. I'm sending out that information that you need. I could send it to your Lake Forest Drive or email it over to you. And then they're naturally going to say, what are you sending me, right? Well, first off, this is Kevin with eCapital on a recorded line. We're sending you out the information that you're going to need for the start of your business, right? And we want to make sure you have it in enough time so that it's completely tailored to your exact need. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So here's the thing, though, is that we can only help you if we can, right, verify that you need this.
Yeah, one or more trucks. How many trucks do you have?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you loop back in. Yeah. Right? And say, hey, you know what? Let me save you some time first before I even send it. Let me make sure it's even worth your time looking at it. Mm-hmm. Got it? So how much trucks you got? Got it. Okay. And then it's always on its way. The reason why it hooks it is because you can't fight. It's very hard to fight something that's already on its way. Yeah. And and when you immediately say their address or their email address on the leads that you do have, they feel like they already know you or they talk to you. So they're kind of you know, processing it in their head, like, who's this person? Did I talk to them? You know what I mean? While at the same time, you're still guiding them forward. Okay.
And then after I've done that, acting like it's already on its way, getting the qualifications questions, telling them what it is, saying it's something you're going to need. What's a good way to add in, you know what, we're going to get you underway with this percentage and we're going to offer you an email with my consultant coming on the line.
Okay. Yeah, so like how you said, you wait for the response because you know it's got that wow, right? That's where you want to time a similar effect, right? Okay. To make them feel like, oh, wow. So I would do it now, like by saying constantly in my verbiage of an outbound call, you know what, before I move any further, let me just confirm. Okay, got it. Based on the information, it looks like I can help you. Got it. Now, what I'm going to do is move forward. Right? Okay. And so you're planting these seeds and say, you know what, based on the information you share with me, it's important that I get this information out to you right now. I'm going to have one of our factoring agents help prepare it and then send it to you. He has to authorize the release. Make sense? Okay. So now you build a little bit more authority.
Should I say in that, I realize you don't have too much time right now, so here's what we're going to do for you. Should I say that? Just because if I say that, I'm going to hear, obviously I know, oh, I don't have time, oh, can we do this later, you can call me back, you know what I mean? So how would I implement the objection before it comes up with that?
Sure. So number one is you match their tonality, because when they ask questions to you or respond to you, they have a specific tone. Like a tone like you have where you're just kind of relaxing right now in the car, right? But then you have a different tone if you were in a rush somewhere. Yeah. So if you're in a rush, or if whatever tone comes out, you're matching that rush, but you're capturing the attention and bringing the tone back down. Okay. You'll know that you have control of them because their tone matches your tone.
That's huge, yeah. Because I know like 5 or 10 seconds in the call if I'm going to get this guy over or not by the tone. You're right, that's big. Because if I hear he's driving or something, there's loud noise, he's on speaker, And I
Yes.
know, hey, I realize you're probably driving right now or something like that. We're
Yep.
gonna make a switch for you. Okay, yeah, you're right. That's big too.
Yeah, huge, because right away they're gonna be like, okay, cool, this guy knows what's up.
Yeah.
Where it's gonna come most friction is if they sound like in a rush and then you hit them with
Mhm.
that tone like you're just chilling.
Yeah. Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you got a mirror. That's big too, and I'm glad we touched on that right now because just to have it fresh in my mind. Because a lot of my other workers, they have the same tone and like slowness each prospect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Not good, but yeah, that's a good thing to have too. You're right.
yeah.
Uh,
You got
so
to hit
based
them
off
with
this
the.
tone,
You
yeah.
got to hit them with the tone like, oh man, let me just make kind of like how you have this tone of like, oh, you're not doing this. Like
Yeah.
you do it in a tone where it's like, no, what's that, right?
Uh-huh.
So you
And
use the tone same way in the effect of carrying the momentum over to the agent.
okay.
You know, like, oh man, check this out.
Mhm.
How many trucks you got? Right? Like almost like that, right? There's like Kevin got the hookup. Like
Mhm.
there's that person, right?
Mhm.
And they'll be triggered and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna stick with this dude. You know, point me to
Yeah.
the direction. But when you
Mhm.
hand off the baton or when you transfer it over, whether that trucker's brand new or not, you have at least enough information to give a quick 2 sentence intro up with the prospect not on the line to the agent so that they know what the hot buttons are. You know, and so
Yeah.
maybe that might be a question and be like, hey, you know, ask an agent sometime, like, hey, you know, you get leads, the ones that convert easy. What is it that helps it convert easy? Is it because you
Yeah.
know their hot buttons, right?
Yeah. Hmm. And so you think I should do? Because I'll be honest, the transfer over process, you know how it rings, and we tell them it's gonna ring, and like the
Yeah.
consultant line. Sometimes we get dropped TOs where they don't even answer, and I have to say,
Uh,
hey, we're gonna. It's ridiculous, and you see that people are showing up on the screen. I look over with all the consultants. There's like 15 of them. It shows them ringing on the screen, but they're just routing out invoices and stuff like that. But it's frustrating because sometimes they don't answer. But I'm trying
when
to
do
think
you
of
know that they don't answer?
when it just rings. Sometimes I've been on a guy and I've been stalling him
Oh,
for like
okay.
3 to 5 minutes, and I'm like, this is fucking.
No
And we
one's
have to
picking
send.
up. Oh,
Yeah,
got it,
that
got it.
happens, and it's frustrating. And that's why something when we do that, our managers tell us to send an email out to all the managers saying drop turnover or something like that. So I usually just say, hey, we're gonna follow up with you. We'll give you a percentage. They're all pretty busy right now. But a good question I have is, should I tell the benefits when I'm telling them this is a service they're gonna need and what it is, or should I tell the benefits when I'm stalling them on the ring? Because that's what I do on the ring now, because it takes so fucking long to get them on the phone. It's like 45 seconds, like a minute and a half. I swear, average.
Yeah.
So you think I should add the benefits and talk more about it on the turnover when it's ringing, or should I do it, implement it?
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's a great question because you got to
Uh,
fill in that white noise, right?
yeah,
Like
it's just
that wait, that
problem right
awkward
now.
silence. You're like, oh, I got someone ready. No one can even take it. Damn, this person's about to go. And so it's very important to be aware of the way you're feeling that way because that awkwardness will come through in your tone, right? And so some
Yeah.
people feel forced to fill in the silence with questions that actually trigger a negative reaction to the person. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like when we're going over benefits, they may be triggered to feel like they're committing to something, right? And
Yeah.
not even want to talk anymore to the agent.
Yeah, because sometimes when I talk about the benefits on the transfer over process, because I save it for that, because I know it's gonna be long, the
Yep.
ring. I get like, yeah, we give you guys for 30 cents off per gallon. He's like, yeah, good man, yeah, Kevin, just send me an email, man. Just send me an email. You know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
almost saying they gotta go,
Yep. Yep.
and
So
then it's
set,
like, oh,
so come up with a story, like a default story to fill in that white noise, you know,
okay,
and just kind of make it fun. Make it to the point of like, you know what, we have so many agents and it's amazing. Sometimes not one is available. It's
oh, I like
because of
that.
our recognition. It's because we are busy. It's because we got the best price. You know what? I was actually yesterday or just this call before. I was actually on hold for 3 minutes trying to find an agent. We have so many, and guess what? Every single one was on the phone giving benefits to this driver. The driver I was talking to, you know, was in a rush and they were in an awkward state and had to get me off the phone. Fortunately, they gave me enough patience because we ended up helping them do this and
I
that
like
and
that.
this.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
story, you're addressing the objection and giving
I
the
like that.
reward for being patient.
Uh-huh. Because some people, um, like how I just told you, I go over the benefits on the ring, right, on the
Yeah.
transfer process. So I like that because it keeps them in tune with our topic, what we're talking about. Some of my other workers ask them personally, "Oh, did you watch the game? How was that?"
Yeah.
So you think it's best to keep it kind of the topic, or kind of just ask them personal stuff like that, or what do
I
you
would
think?
I would keep it on the topic because
Okay.
if you bring up something random like, hey, did you catch the game, or
Bullshit.
then what if they don't like the game? Plus they feel like they're in a rush. They're like, dude, I don't know you. I don't want to talk
Yeah.
to them about no game.
Yeah.
I don't watch
Uh-huh.
sports.
Yeah.
That makes sense. They're going to
Yeah.
find a reason to not like it. It's kind of like you're going to have the same temptation when you get into mortgage. There's fake
Mhm.
rapport, and fake rapport is like, so you got kids? Like,
Yeah, what's
bro,
the weather like? Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I used to ask that my first week. I used to be like, "So where are you guys from? Oh, how's the weather?" It's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's fake,
Yeah.
right? And they'll sense
Yeah.
it.
So I like that. So basically, kind of make fun of what's going on in the process right now, and kind of make it seem like it's a high value by saying this one guy. I'm happy he gave me the opportunity because we were able to give him that benefit of getting 30 cents off.
Yes,
But it was really
something that
funny
they
how
could
I have
relate
so
to.
many. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, something that they can relate to, but you're saying, man, it's amazing. We have so many different agents, and each one of them are on the phone, and it's mainly because of our recognition. We have a lot of clients. This funny thing is that I was just a call right before you when I was transferring. I was on hold for 3 minutes. We have so many different agents, and fortunately, this person was just like you. They're in a rush, right? But for giving me the patience, they were able to do this and that and this. So let me make sure. Let me see if this agent's off the phone yet. And then give it a couple seconds or whatnot, and then go back into it. Anyway, that trucker that I just talked to that gave me the patience. Ultimately, what we did for them was give them access to capital because he understood that he needed the seat time or whatever applies to that trucker, right? So that they can. Everyone likes stories, right? And when they can relate to the story where they feel like they're the hero of that story, right? Like they could relate to the person in that story, and there's a reward at the end for that person in the story. They want that reward.
Okay. And do you think it's best to talk and do a story the whole time on the transfer process, or should I ask questions too so they're in connection?
Yeah, just get a feel for them. Sometimes you got prospects that just want to talk. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're cool with talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got some that just are not. So those who are not, you don't want to do, like water cooler talk because they're in a rush, right? But instead, if you go through a story with someone like a quick summary story,
Yeah. I like that.
yeah, it's just a different way of telling them, hey, be patient.
And then what's a good way to go about this? Because this happens probably, to be honest, max twice, at least once a day, where it just rings for like 3 to 4 minutes. How I do it is I don't get off the phone until he says he has to go. A lot of my other workers kind of say, "Hey, it's taking a long time. I'm gonna because I just redial it sometimes. If it takes a minute, I'm just gonna redial it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just pops up on the screen again. Some of the other coworkers, they just like, "Hey, it's taking a while. I mean, I'm gonna give you a call back. I won't take 2 minutes of your time." But usually I just go about it. If they're going with it, I wait that long. Sometimes I've saw a guy for like 5 or 6 minutes and I finally got somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you think it's best to just wait and have the call end because of the person I'm talking to, or because it's taking too long? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really gonna depend on that person. If they're giving you a lot of resistance, I'm like, dude, I gotta go, and say, you know what, let's do this. I got an idea. I'm gonna put you on hold. I'm gonna get you connected right now, and then put them on hold, right? Like I don't know if they have music that they listen to or whatnot. Say, you know what, I'm gonna put you on hold. I'm gonna walk over there. I'm gonna hang this agent's phone up. I really want you to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they have visually think you guys are in the same room,
Yeah.
but all you did was put them on hold. So again, it comes down to your CRM capabilities. If you could put them on hold and then go try and ring for another agent, right?
It sucks because how it is the job, and it's kind of like a just work drama that shouldn't even be happening.
Yeah.
We can't even walk over there and say, "Hey, we got somebody lying to pick up." We can't even do that. We're not even allowed to personally IM saying, "Hey, can you take a turnover? It's ringing too long." We can't even do that. Sometimes I do it because I'm like, "This is fucking bullshit." I think we should be allowed to.
Yeah.
But we just have to wait. We can't personally IM any consultant saying, "Hey," you know what I mean?
So then build the story for them on the process. So say, hey, you know what? I got an idea. Let me make sure that this one particular agent is available. I want you to speak to him. He's one of our top guys. I'm going to make sure he gets you out the best one. Or, don't even say him because you might get connected to a chick, right? So say, hey, I want to get you over to this one agent. They're going to get you. They're very experienced, and I only want you to talk to them. Hold on. Let me get you over to them real quick. And so what happens is if they connect, you have a reason to say, hey, that particular agent is on the phone and I want you to talk to them. So they're gonna flag me once they get off the phone, and then I'm gonna go and connect you to that agent. I want to help you get straight to the top, or I want to help you get straight to the one you need to talk to, right? So then they feel like there's a purpose for waiting, rather than saying, man, we have a lot of agents. So allow yourself to say, to do the transfer. Don't hit them and say, hey, I need to use that as kind of a backup plan. So if you find yourself waiting for 3 minutes, then you have the idea and say, you know what, I got an idea. I'm gonna connect you with this one agent. I want to make sure you get straight to the top. I want to make sure you get straight to one of my best agents.
Point out a different outlet.
Yes, right. Yeah, okay. Now there's a reason to wait even longer.
Yeah.
Right. So let me make sure that they're off the phone. Hold on. Let me see if I could see them. Right. And then you're dragging on. Okay, I think they're off. Let me check. And then try ring out again. You know what? They're just getting off the phone right now. Hey, you know what? This is so funny. And then go into the story, right? I would say, okay, let me see if they're available, blah, blah, blah. And then one finally picks up. Hey, good news. I got them.
No, I like that. It's good because it's creative. You know what I mean? You're not just sticking to the bullshitting questions.
Yeah.
It's not taking a while.
Yeah.
That's a good way to build rapport. I like that. Because what I do sometimes, if it's taking a while, I just redial it. And I look over and I see on the computer screens, like the calls coming up in the thing. And sometimes it still doesn't happen. So it kind of sucks out sometimes. Some of the things in my work, it's not really in my control, But yeah.
Well, I hope that this training session, bro, I appreciate the time you spent with me, man. I really hope that it helps. And I appreciate your support on the brand and sharing and putting it on the stories, bro. So I needed to make sure I spent some time with you to give you some direct, tailored value. And I hope that, you took away a few gold nuggets with the time that we shared.
Definitely, man. I need to do that. It's definitely going to sharpen up and everything. I like that.
Yes, sir.
Common collected with the connection. This ain't no click, boy, that's a collective. More than objects, yeah, that's the objective. You fitting me? So they pay